Hey you guys, I'm Brian Paul, and it's time for some more PlayStation VR breaking news. PlayStation Store today, and there are over 70 PSVR games with huge discounts. So hopefully I can save you the time and effort of looking up review after review, and we can blast through all of them here in one short video. Keep in mind that these are the prices in games available in North America, and while most of the games will be on sale until the 20th, some games will leave the sale early. So check the listing in your region for those extra details. A Fisherman's Tale is a fun little adventure that plays with your perception of reality in a way that's inventive and kind of adorable at the same time. But clocking in at just around 90 minutes or so, you're not going to get a lot for your money here. Still, it's worth playing through once. The VR portion of Ace Combat 7 consists of just 3 levels, but those 3 levels are absolutely breathtaking, and replaying them over and over to unlock everything will be some of the most immersive hours you'll ever spend in a VR headset. Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife is the next big game from Fast Travel Games on everyone's mind, but if you want to see this company's roots, then checking out Apex Construct for just $5 is a no-brainer. It's a slow-paced adventure that won't be for everyone, but it's got a style all its own. It was an early classic on PSVR. Everything about Arca's Path feels like a misstep. What could have been a cool update to Marble Madness or Super Monkey Ball feels like a boring, endless trudge through copied and pasted environments with head tracking controls that'll guarantee a stiff neck if you play for more than 30 minutes at a time. We always recommend Arizona Sunshine anytime it's on sale for less than $12, so at $8 you're getting a great deal on a game that has a full single player or co-op campaign, aim support, and some really fun horde maps that are playable with friends online. It's a little janky, but undeniably fun. Bartender VR Sim, which was overpriced at $20, is still overpriced at $15. It's got some pretty inconsistent tracking and often horrible physics, but even worse, the whole game is just about memorizing drink recipes. The only way I can recommend this one is if you actually want to be a bartender and learn to make some popular drinks. Battlewake has an awesome control scheme, so maneuvering your pirate ship around oncoming enemies and taking them down one by one is actually a whole lot of fun. But other than that, there's not a lot to actually do in Battlewake, making it fun for a few days at best. Which means that $8 is a pretty good price for this one. Battlezone is never this cheap. Buy it, check out the basic mechanics in single player, then grab 3 friends and go online in one of the best co-op games available in VR. Variable campaign lengths and difficulties means you can easily spend an entire afternoon finishing just one session, if that's something you have time for. As one of the only side-scrolling beat-em-ups on PSVR, Bloody Zombies has a certain charm to it. Playing in co-op with friends online is fun, but I doubt anyone is going to call Bloody Zombies a must-have for the headset. Concrete Genie is a beautiful, flat-screen adventure, but if you're buying this one for the virtual painting VR mode alone, you should probably pass. Cool Painter VR or Sculptor VR are much better choices for that kind of thing.
You want me?
Creed Rise to Glory is a fun single-player campaign where you train as a boxer and rise through the ranks to become the champion of the world. The locomotion system is stupid, but the rest of the game is really fun. There's even a one-on-one online mode, but regardless of how you play, be ready to sweat. Demo is one of my favorite underappreciated games of the last year. Half of the game is a piano rhythm game, and the other half is a stunning puzzle adventure filled with mysterious characters and a pretty amazing soundtrack. I can see holding off buying this one at the premium price of $40, but at less than $25, it's a must-have in my book.
But at one point or another,
if you love testing your VR legs, then there's no better game to do that in than Detached. It's a space exploration game where you float around in zero gravity, spin on every axis, and attempt to get to safety. The checkpoint system is not player friendly, but at this price, it's worth putting up with a little bit of frustration.
or suffocate you.
I love the original Disaster Report games on PS2, but the series has not aged well. The campaign doesn't support PSVR, but as you complete each stage, a VR level unlocks. But thanks to a point-and-click locomotion system in pretty barren environments, even those aren't terribly fun to explore. I've never watched a single episode of Doctor Who, but Edge of Time doesn't care about that. It lets you dive right in and gives you just enough exposition to get the idea. It's not the greatest puzzle game, in fact the puzzles can drag it down big time, but there were just enough memorable, spooky moments to keep me interested. This is a tough one. Don't Knock Twice has a good story, the environments look good enough, there's plenty of scares, but it can be janky as hell. I've had entire playthroughs where everything worked perfectly, and entire playthroughs where the bugs were almost unbearable. It's still worth it, when it works. Electronauts is the strangest rhythm game I've ever played. It puts you in a DJ booth, but instead of turntables, you've got levers and orbs to manipulate and throw to create cool beats and loops. There's a ton of tracks here too, so for $5, you'll definitely get your money's worth. Esper gives you telekinetic powers to solve a series of puzzles. The puzzles themselves range from interesting to tedious, and a few of them require a bit of trial and error to see if you're even on the right path. It's not terribly exciting, but for just $3, you could do a whole lot worse.
Okay, we'll start again.
Yeah, Aspire 1 has come a long way since launch. It now sports better graphics and everything works a whole lot better than it once did. But the lack of 3D audio in a stealth game is unforgivable, and the level design makes for some really tedious backtracking. Being able to scale walls is great, but I played through the entire campaign, and I can't say I enjoyed any of it. Even with the glaring multiplayer omission and caddies that should be bashed over the head with a 9-iron, Everybody's Golf VR is an amazing game. The 3 courses look stunning and the move support simulates actual golfing surprisingly well. Yes, Five Nights at Freddy's VR is just a collection of minigames, but they're terrifying and learning to perfect each one will keep you busy for hours. But if you're going to buy this one, make sure to pick up the bundle that includes the Curse of the Dreadbear for just a few dollars more. Some of these levels are even better than the original. Controlling your feet with move controllers was an interesting experiment, and while you can totally get used to the controls after some practice, this game is only really going to be worth it for die-hard soccer fans with friends that want to get online and play together. Ghost Giant takes elements of old-school point-and-click adventure games, throws in a lovable cast of characters, and tells a story about friendship, family, and depression that'll likely hit home for a good number of gamers. There are even collectibles that make replaying each stage really fun. This is a must-have game. Good Dog Bad Dog is one of the worst games on PSVR. It's not broken, it's just not fun. Don't get it, and don't trust anyone that says anything good about it. There's something about Gun Club VR that's endlessly addictive. Yeah, it's a basic wave shooter, but the challenges are really fun, and the weapon variety and customization is practically endless. Plus, there's an update coming for the game fairly soon. The concept for Guns & Stories Bulletproof is sound. Get a bunch of kick-ass weapons and plow through a story in typical wave shooter fashion. But the levels drag on and on and on to the point where you're bored of playing each of them within minutes. And the story is totally disposable. So maybe consider this one for $3 or $4, but certainly not for $10.
I expect you to die.
One of the most criminally overlooked escape rooms on PlayStation VR is I Expect You to Die. The developers over at Shell Games knocked it out of the park with great controls, environments, multiple solutions to each puzzle, then brought it all home with 3 huge pieces of DLC that essentially doubled the size of the game for free. Trust me on this one, you won't be disappointed.
But it's not all bow ties and martinis.
Yeah, Infinite Mini Golf is one of the only ways to play putt-putt with PSVR, and it's fun enough. But it would have been so much better with a first-person mode with move support where you actually swing the club yourself. If you can settle for a pretty casual game that isn't terribly immersive, there's still fun to be had here. Job Simulator is a PSVR classic that gives you jobs to do and plenty of things to pick up, throw, and experiment with. But at just $5 off, it's not that big of a sale, and if you're looking for the best value during this sale, you can probably hold off on this one.
Are you sure? It says detonate.
Dismantling a bomb in VR while your friends walk you through step by step by reading instructions outside of VR will have you on the edge of your seat. It's a great game to play with friends or even in a party setting, if you can keep everyone focused.
Cut the first wire.
Killing Floor Incursion has a 1 or 2 player campaign mode that features 4 stages, and 3 of them are pretty great. Incursion doesn't get enough love, and for $8, you're getting an awesome deal.
In 3,
It's up to us.
2,
There are two major problems with LA Noire the VR case files. First, only about a third of the non-VR game is here, and the story suffers pretty hard because of it. And second, while the game can be stunning and immersive, simple fun things to do in VR like climbing ladders will just automatically teleport you to the top. Meaning, it's not all that immersive. Luckily, driving is a total blast, and overall, it's a great game for the price. This is another tough one. Loading Human is a super slow-paced adventure with zero action and very little excitement. As a launch title, the VR controls are pretty wonky and will take some time to get used to, but there is something here for fans of old-school point-and-click adventures. Trust me, I get what Mind Labyrinth is going for. There's a whole emerging genre of VR games that remove gameplay in favor of giving you a relaxing place to meditate or explore. The music is fine and the environments get the job done, but for the money, I'd rather sit by a stream in Skyrim VR and then have an actual game to play when I get sick of sitting around doing nothing. I had a lot of complaints about Mini Motor Racing X at launch, but the developers did a great job of basically addressing all of them. The tracks here look stunning, and once you upgrade your vehicle, the game moves blisteringly fast. It's a little RC Pro-Am in third person, and really intense in first person. The biggest remaining downside is the lackluster weapon selection in battle mode, but for $7 or $8, this one is totally worth it. No Man's Sky is a simply stunning VR game, but the blurriness kills it for a lot of people, so we still need a Pro patch or a PS5 patch before it's a must-have. And to top it off, we've definitely seen this one much cheaper than $30. Operencia is a decently long grid-based dungeon crawler that keeps things interesting along the way with new party members and special abilities to discover. But the VR mode has a strange sense of scale, blurry graphics, and I actually found it way more fun on a flat screen. There are a few frustrating moments, but if you're a fan of the genre, you'll probably enjoy this one. Out of Ammo has the awesome premise of letting you manage your troops in God mode and then allowing you to take control of individual characters in first-person mode, which makes you feel like you're really part of the battle. But it's a little janky, graphics are uninspired, and there's no rewards for completing any of the levels, so the boredom sets in after about an hour or so. Pistol Whip is one of the best games of the year, so the price of $17 makes it a must-have. Plus, we've already gotten some free DLC from the developers, and even more is coming very soon. The original Pixel Ripped is a VR classic at this point, and it's aimed squarely at VR gamers who are also nostalgic for the old 8-bit NES era of gaming. The blend of old and new felt revolutionary and was so well done, so retro gamers should definitely check this one out. At launch, Pixel Ripped 1995 felt a little bit rushed and less enthralling than its 1989 prequel. But since then, the team over at Arvory has updated the game with a new difficulty mode, a new attack, but best of all, hidden collectibles to find throughout the game, making it now feel like a truly worthy sequel. Oh man, Psychonauts is a classic Tim Schafer adventure. The humor and wackiness translates pretty well into VR with this VR exclusive side story, but like a few other games that we've talked about on the list today, it's generally aimed at point-and-click puzzle adventure fans. Clocking in at around 3 hours or so, it's definitely fun while it lasts. Raw Data was the first game that Survios brought to PSVR, and it's still one of their best games to date. Featuring multiple characters to play as, with radically different weapons and a great variety of stages, and an intriguing story told along the way, Raw Data manages to merge the wave shooter and tower defense genre into one awesome game. Oh, and $10 is an amazing price. Resident Evil 7 is the best game on PSVR, hands down. It's a AAA game with a 12 to 15 hour campaign, stunning environments, terrifying enemies, and there's a billion reasons to replay it over and over. The only reason you shouldn't buy this game at $10 would be because the Gold Edition that features all the DLC has been on sale multiple times for just $20. I've been playing Rez in multiple forms ever since it launched back on the Dreamcast. It's essentially a rail shooter, but the intense audio-visual experience that comes along with it is incredible, especially in VR. The new Off-Rails Area X mode is a huge hit with fans too. Robinson the Journey is a divisive game. On the Pro, it's one of the most beautiful games for the headset, and I found the sense of scale almost mind-blowing. It's a fun adventure, especially for $12, but sadly, it doesn't work on PlayStation 5, and that's going to be a pretty huge deal breaker for a lot of people. Wingsuit Racing somehow translates really well to VR, especially when you turn on a fan and point it at yourself while you're playing. And when you add in 8-player online multiplayer, free DLC, and a single-player free flight mode, Rush VR becomes a must-have title. Shadow Legend clocks in at around 4 hours, with maybe another 2 or so to get the platinum. But those 4 hours are so much fun. The worlds are insanely immersive, with tons of ledges to climb, animals to interact with, enemies to fight, runes to find, and more, making this one of my favorite games of the year, and the winner of 2 awards on our recent PSVR award show. And for $15, you can't go wrong. It's so tough to recommend buying any wave shooter at this point, but if you're only going to buy one of them, then Shooty Fruity might be your best bet. It's so ridiculous, from the silly voiceovers, over-the-top enemies, and the menial multitasking you're forced to do during each level, that you'll be grinning from ear to ear while playing. Ski Jumping Pro doesn't do anything wrong, but the name says it all. You're doing one short ski jumping event over and over and over for the entire duration of the game, and once you get the hang of the controls, you'll be able to get first place every single time, which makes it ridiculously easy, and you'll unlock everything in about 90 minutes or so. Strategy games are few and far between on PSVR. I've got to admit that it took me a while to fully learn the ropes in Skyworld, but once I did, I found a pretty challenging, fun experience. 1v1 online multiplayer is pretty fun too. Space Pirate Trainer is a VR classic, and it gets a lot of love from the community as a whole. Unfortunately though, wave shooters have come a long way since this game first debuted, and while it's still great if you're obsessed with chasing leaderboard scores, the lack of variety will keep it from being a must-have game for everyone. Okay, so it's been a long time since I last played Space Rift, but I remember the voiceovers being totally blown out and distorted between missions. But I also remember the mission variety being kind of awesome. Sometimes you're shooting and sometimes you're exploring and going on missions. It probably hasn't aged well, but for $5, you might get some fun out of this one. Sports Bar VR was a cool place to hang out before we got Rec Room. Now, by comparison, it seems extremely limited, and the last time I played, I had a ton of orientation and tracking issues that kept me from wanting to return to it. Sprint Vector is the best kart racing game we have on PSVR, and it doesn't even have karts, but the weapons would feel right at home in a Mario Kart game, and the fast and furious racing will have you swinging your arms and sweating in minutes. Obviously, Sprint Vector is more fun in multiplayer, but it's an awesome game, no matter how you look at it. Star Wars Squadrons is one of the best reasons to be in VR currently, with a full single-player campaign completely playable in VR, along with multiplayer online dogfighting and fleet battles. And considering how recently Squadrons released, it's actually pretty amazing that it's discounted this heavily, this early. You know, I could actually see how flying a kite in VR with a couple of move controllers could be kind of fun. But Stunt Kite Masters doesn't deliver on that fun, and most of the game actually feels like you're flying a kite that's projected against a 2D screen in the sky. You gotta skip this one, even for $2. Superhot's mechanic of time only moves when you do is pretty unique, and despite what might appear to be plain graphics with stark white environments, it's an incredibly immersive, incredibly addictive game. Blasting through the campaign won't take terribly long, but the endless modes are, no surprise, endlessly replayable. I'm sure there will be plenty of Surgeon Sim VR defenders out there, but the intentionally awful controls didn't make me enjoy the game in the way that other games like Octodad or Quap did. Instead, it was decidedly frustrating, not fun, and hard to recommend at any price. Telefrag VR attempted to make 1v1 deathmatches fun, but what it did instead was deliver a subpar shooter that felt underdeveloped. There was a promise that more content would come to the game, and it would change based on what players demanded, but I guess no one played it, because it's still essentially the same barren game it was at launch. If you don't like Tetris, then playing Tetris Effect in VR isn't going to change your mind. But if you already like Tetris, then this is one of the best versions out there. Awesome visual effects and music paired with classic Tetris gameplay, tons of alternate modes, and an online multiplayer mode promised for 2021 makes the sale price of $20 more than reasonable. One of the most underrated hidden gems on this list, the Assembly is a narrative-driven adventure that's pretty unforgettable. There's some decent puzzle solving, impressive environments, quality voiceovers, everything you'd want from this kind of game. So if you don't mind taking your time while the story slowly ramps up, then the Assembly will definitely reward your patience. I love the claymation style animation and miniature worlds of this game. The Curious Tale of the Stolen Pets is short and won't take you long to beat, but it's charming from start to finish. The Persistence continues to be one of our favorite PSVR games long after launch. It's a sci-fi roguelite, which means you'll be dying a lot, starting over from the beginning, but upgrading your permanent stats the whole time. As great as the game is though, if you're looking for the best deals during this sale, this definitely isn't the cheapest we've ever seen this game. A lot of people have hated on Onslaught since launch, but despite all of its problems, I still managed to have a pretty good time with it. The more arcade-style scavenging runs through the city can be really intense, and while the story is boring at best, those stages offered a ton of excuses to kill a ton of walkers. For $20 you could do a lot worse, just make sure you take a quick look at my review before taking the plunge. Time Carnage has a huge number of unlockable weapons, a good variety of stages, each with unique enemies, and despite all of that, still manages to be a really unimpressive, boring wave shooter. I really don't like Torn as a game. The puzzles are so mundane and simplistic that after the first hour, you'll be begging for the game to offer some kind of new challenge. And that sucks, because the art design here, despite the low-res environments, is truly stunning. The world looks incredible, and the mansion is filled to the brim with things to throw around using your little anti-gravity telekinesis device. But the boredom will set in long before you've seen even half of it. Don't waste your time or money on Touhou Kabuto 5. The VR mode isn't used for the full game, and the fighting engine, not to mention the overall look and feel of the entire game, is bland and uninspired. Possibly one of the best values in the entire sale, spending $5 on Transpose will result in endless hours of scratching your head while you create multiple versions of yourself that all work together in order to solve puzzles. It's unlike anything else on the platform, and at this price, it's a risk you won't regret taking. I've tried unsuccessfully over and over to get into Rick and Morty, but somehow Trover Saves the Universe by Squanch Games and Justin Roiland had me laughing in just a few minutes. So yeah, it's really funny, but it's also a really decent platformer too. Until You Fall is an amazing game. The soundtrack and visuals will rope you in immediately, but the roguelike gameplay will keep you playing until your whole body hurts from endless hours of swinging swords, parrying, and dodging attacks. It only came out in September, which is why this first sale only knocks $5 off, so it might not be the best value in the sale, but it's certainly one of the best games here. Half of Vader Immortal feels like you're taking part in a VR movie, and the other half is a series of lightsaber dojo challenges. We still have a ton of complaints about this one that really need to be fixed, from weird audio glitches, awkward hand animations, and no options for full locomotion, but Star Wars fans are gonna love it regardless. What I love most about virtual reality is that it's not at all the game I expected it to be. What first seems like a job simulator clone eventually graduates into an Inception-like narrative that works on quite a few levels. I don't praise VVR like most people do, but for $10, it's a definite should we. VR Ping Pong wasn't good at launch when it was the only ping pong game in town. I've played a ton of ping pong in real life, and the physics here are just way too sensitive. Plus the overall look of the game is amateurish at best, and when Racket Fury is literally perfect, there's no reason to play this one. VR Ping Pong Pro had one thing going for it, and one thing only: some really crazy environments. There's a lot of diversity here with a lot going on in the backgrounds, despite a ton of blurriness. That said, the physics again are terrible and wildly inconsistent. Trust me on this, Racket Fury is the only table tennis game you need. Witching Tower isn't terribly long. You can probably get through it in about 3 hours or so, which makes the normal price of $20 a little unappealing. But it's actually really fun and packed with puzzles, exploration, and combat, making the sale price pretty attractive. It's a good game that gets overlooked far too often. Alright you guys, it's all the breaking news I have for you today, but make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with all the latest PlayStation VR reviews, Let's Plays, podcasts, and of course breaking news. As always, I'm Brian Paul, and I love you all.